This is Thrivenomics, presented by Thrive Mortgage. Well, welcome back. We've got another episode of Thrivenomics for you today. Thanks for taking the time out of your day to listen in. I'm very excited about today's episode. Before we get to our guests, I want to introduce my stalwart producer, podcast producer, and all-around good guy, Raul Espinoza. How you doing, Raul?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful.
Cool.
Good to see you today.
I'm excited.
Well, our guest today is a very special friend to not only Thrive Mortgage, but to so many people, especially her clients and her realtors. We have for you today Denise Donoghue, aka the Mortgage Nerd, coming out of Frisco, Texas. How you doing, Denise?
Hey guys, I'm good. How are you?
Doing wonderful. Thanks for joining us today. Excited to get to visit with you and just kind of pepper you with a whole bunch of questions about what makes you different and what drives you and what you're most passionate about, and specifically in regards to working with the consumers and the clients that you work with, and how you take these people from like meeting them for the first time and turn them into such raving fans of yours. So let's start off with back at the beginning of your process. Now, you went to A&M. We won't hold that against you. Baylor grad won't hold that against you, but coming out of A&M, what were your plans or dreams or aspirations? What were you looking to do with your career when you first started off?
I was just trying to not have to eat another peanut butter and jelly sandwich and goldfish for the rest of my life. I'd graduated college and I got a business economics major, and I knew I'd always been a finance nerd. I'd always been intrigued by money. We didn't have any money growing up. And so I just knew that I didn't want to relive that life. And so I learned that my parents were never taught or curious enough about financial strategy. And so that's kind of what started my passion behind it. It's just, I never wanted to be that broke in my life again.
Right.
And so when I graduated, it was in 2006. The economy wasn't great. It was at the end of 2006. There wasn't a whole lot of opportunities. I remember my boyfriend at the time, his dad was working at this one call close boiler room style. I mean, you had to make 400 dials a day, every day for 2 hours a day. You had to do like personal development there, listening to Tony Robbins and stuff, because you got so much rejection over the phone. And, but in those 6 months of my life, the company ended up going under, but in those 6 months, I learned so much about the psychology of sales, because asking somebody for their social and to sign up for a 4-year non-cancelable agreement to basically start an online business, which is what we were selling. You had to be really good. You had to be sincere. The goal was to not get hung up on in 7 seconds. And so I learned a lot from the people I worked there with, and I learned a lot about phone skills and the psychology of sales. And so anyways, the company went under, and one of the guys that was there was like, hey, we're going to work at this mortgage company. You should come with us. And I was like, I don't even know how to spell mortgage. I don't like real estate because our house got foreclosed on when we were in high school.
2 G's.
Yeah.
It's hard. And my last name's Donoghue with a secret G. So, I mean, I should know, but I didn't have a great relationship with real estate because our house got foreclosed on. And so I said, what the heck? I mean, I was broke at the time, and I sure enough went, and there was a 2-week training class that we went to where mortgage companies actually trained you back then.
Right.
And that's what started my passion for the mortgage side. However, that was in 2007 and 2008, which was like worst time. And everything that I saw on the movies, like that movie, The Big Short, like that was spot on who I was working with. I felt like I had to take a shower at the end of work every day. I was just like, ew, this is gross. Right. And so that was the second company that went under in a short amount of time when I graduated school, that I thought, you know what, I'm going to follow in my older sister's footsteps. She got into banking fresh out of college, climbed that ladder. She always drove a nice car. So at first that was the attraction, because again, it's not the money that fueled it. It was stability that I wanted, and that security that I wanted for my life. So I wound up going to a big bank and I got my financial advising licenses, and I learned a lot about finance and the stock market and retirement accounts. And I also learned that nobody wants to invest their 401k with a 25-year-old blonde. so So I was like, well, it's probably time to get back into mortgage. My manager at the time, I made a lot of sales in the mortgage side, and I was actually studying to go to the next level in my investments career. And he convinced me, I think you should give mortgage another shot. And my heart always fell in love with mortgage, because even as a financial advisor, when you have a client that meets with you, they don't necessarily divulge everything.
Sure.
In fact, I was helping a client recently that said, hey, I know I have $80,000 on my credit card. Don't tell my financial advisor because I used it for my daughter's wedding. And I'm like, what? She had plenty of money in the account, but she didn't want her financial advisor knowing she was spending that. So you have some of that when you're a financial advisor. They don't want to trust you with all their money yet. You have to earn it. As a mortgage lender, you get to see people completely vulnerable. I call it being naked, because you see their income, their assets, their debts, their 401ks. You see it all. And so it's really, really fun to be able to help people with a mortgage loan learn financial strategy. And that's what I do.
That's really, really interesting. And that's probably why you're such a strategic thinker and planner when it comes to putting together the mortgage programs that you advise your clients on. And so that kind of segues into where I wanted to focus next, and that is how you deal with your clients. Because I mean, you talk about all the 5-star reviews you get, and the endorsements that like I mentioned earlier, the raving fans that you create. So what is it that motivates you the most about working with a specific client?
Well, most of my clients are families, or they intend to grow into a family. And so I think it just stems from my upbringing. You know, my parents got divorced when I was in second grade, and my dad raised 3 girls the best that he could. But there was a severe lack of financial literacy or strategy. I mean, we lived in that house for 25 years. Realistically, it should have been paid off, close to paid off by the time I was 18, not foreclosed on. And that doesn't mean that I'm blaming other people, but I think about if there were people in his life that he run across, whether it be at work or maybe that banker at the bank that you go to, that maybe would have just taught him something that he had never learned, maybe that path would have looked different.
Right.
And so every client I talk to, I think they know and feel that authentic passion that I have about, okay, we had a client that was relocating from California, and their mindset was, you have to put 20% down. You shouldn't even consider buying a home if you don't have 20% down, because that's a philosophy that our parents and grandparents bought into, largely because that was their only option when they bought a home. Yeah. But when we looked at their whole portfolio, they had a lot of credit card debt, which is high interest debt. It's revolving. I call it the snowball accounts because they're so hard to get out of. Right. And I'm like, okay, wait, let's put 10% down. Let's wipe out your credit card debt. Yes, that increased their monthly mortgage payment, but it decreased their overall cash flow. It increased it by $1,000. So now they have an extra $1,000 a month. And now the question is, what do we do with that money? Because there's a lot of options. You can put it down on your mortgage, but at a 3.25% rate, that's cheap money to borrow. Maybe we pay off that student loan that we couldn't knock off because that interest rate's higher. Or the stock market's on sale. Maybe we throw it into the stock market with a smart strategic financial advisor, and now you're making 5.5% on your funds, growing in a positive snowball, versus the debt that's costing you. And so we're making your money work smarter. And I found when you can teach someone something, they just care about you, and they know that you care about them, versus just saying, here's your rate, here's your fee sheet, I'll see you at the closing table. I mean, everything that we do from the get-go is, let's analyze the loan programs. Let's analyze which one makes the most financial sense. We stack them up side by side. And then every year we do an annual asset review because we want to monitor how your house is appreciating, because that's an asset and it should be monitored much like a financial advisor monitors your portfolio accounts. And so it doesn't just stop at closing.
Right.
And I think that's another thing that separates us is when they find out, oh, wait, I can be part of the Nerd Club alum. And what does that mean? And it's because we care. I mean, I hate seeing people pay PMI insurance when their house is already at well over 20% equity. Let's get that off.
Right.
That's real money. And people, especially now when there's a pandemic and the average American overspends, we've got to correct that. And so I just try to do my part with one family at a time. And if I can make a difference for them, I feel like it makes a generational difference, because then that dad and that mom can teach their kid something that I didn't get taught from my parents, but I got taught from Google and YouTube.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's really awesome, actually, because I mean, I can really relate to that, because my family's kind of the same way. Like, my parents were really bad at their finances. I hope they're not listening. But it really sucks because my mom and dad are both great people. It's just they didn't have that financial guidance either, and therefore I didn't have it. And so it took me a long time to kind of get my stuff together because of that. And now, because of things like YouTube and Google and people like you, Denise, that are putting out this free information online, it's really cool for me to watch it and not to have any obligation to anything, just to kind of hear it. And then the day I'm ready to make that change to get into a house and all that, like, I know who I'm going to go to. But yeah, I can definitely relate to that.
Yeah, it's interesting, the commonality, because I could share the same thing. I love my parents to death. They taught me the bare bones basics of things, but there was so much that they didn't impart to me. And by the time I knew what a credit score was, mine was shot.
Yep.
Because I got to college, and what's the first thing that you get when you open up your mailbox when you're living on the dorms? It's about 15 different credit card orders or offers.
Yep.
And so what did I do? Applied to like 5 or 6 of them.
Yep.
And got 5 or 6 cards and ran up the bill. And it's just stupid, boneheaded mistakes where I made those decisions out of ignorance, where it took me, by the time I realized what I had done, it took me a long time to get out of that hole. And it's something that I'm going to make sure that my sons don't make the same mistake, or at least educate them so that they have the power to make wiser decisions. So, I mean, the strategy that you put into working with your clients is so smart, because as originators, that's really the key, is that you have a lot of, I don't want to use the word power, but you have a lot of sway or a lot of influence in how they think. So you can take somebody who's got that wrong mentality of the smart way to manage money, and educate them, as you said, and really show them that there is a better way. There is a less stressful way of using what's probably their largest debt tied to their largest asset in a smart way, and structuring in such a way that you actually give them more freedom rather than saddling them with a burden that's too much for them to carry on top of what they're already carrying.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
So
and sometimes it's just dated. I love disruptive thinking. And that's probably, I think that's why I wasn't ever a troubled kid. My dad was super strict, so I always followed the rules. I've never done a drug in my life. Like, I am a true nerd.
Right.
But I always test the waters. My teacher would tell me to stop talking, because I am I'm a challenger, which drives my husband crazy, but I'm always challenging. And so you can make such a difference in people's lives. And it's just like that disruptive thinking where they say, I mean, I even have a team member, and she was like, my dad, who was a successful CFO, believes that you should do X, Y, Z. And, that person is older. And so it's like, okay, but do you still wash your clothes on a clothesline with clothespins?
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because we have a washer and dryer. And so it's the same thing with financial strategy and different loan products and even different investment products. It's like those products may have been something years ago, but they've changed, or there's hybrids, or, even the reverse mortgages that we talk a lot about. It's like, it's different. And so sometimes, especially older people, if they deem it as bad, then it's like stay far away. And that's just what the child continues to live life with, that belief. And so challenging someone's belief and showing them, that's why I'm such a visual person. I don't want you to take my word for it. I meet with people face to face. I do Zoom meetings. And that's why I do have so many videos, because I'm a visual person. Buying a home is emotional. People get very emotional. I'm not an emotional person. I'm very factual. So when I show numbers and charts and rates, it changes things from making an emotional decision to making a factual decision. And it's a lot easier to make a smart decision when it's based off facts and not emotions. So that's my vibe.
Yeah, well, there you go. Regardless of whether you're working with a first-time home buyer or somebody that is buying their 10th investment property, what do you feel are the 3 keys that all clients should know about financing a home?
I always say there's 3 different numbers. So you should always know your FICO score, your mortgage FICO score, not your Vantage score, all that stuff. I've got videos about what the difference is. And you should always know your debt and income, or the debt to income ratio. That's something that I hit on every buyer consultation, because to me, your debt to income ratio is the equivalent to going to a doctor and then testing your blood pressure.
Right.
Whether you go to the dentist or the doctor, they do it every time. Why do they do it? Because it's a standard practice. They need to know how healthy you are. And I tell people that process is the exact same, but in the lending world, we call it your debt to income ratio. And it tells us your purchasing power, but it also tells us how financially fit you are. And it will also answer the question of, are you going to be house broke? Because the bank will lend you a certain amount of money that they'll say is your max affordability, which could be different than what your own personal affordability might be. Now, we have to make sure your personal is below what the bank will lend you, but just because the bank will lend you this doesn't necessarily mean that that's what you should take. And so the debt to income ratio is something I talk a lot about. We manually go through it. I just had a consult today over Zoom, and I'm like writing down. It's really funny because I show them the ratio, and I'm like, okay, here's your fraction. And I'm like in the numerator, and I was like, when was the last time you said the word numerator in your life? I'm just curious.
Yeah, numerators and denominators.
That scares me because I was horrible at math.
So remember those numerators on top, denominators on the bottom.
Yeah, I won't remember it. It's just, it's
no, but
not
how
my
fun?
thing.
Like, when was the last time you even said the word numerator? Like, that just never even pops up. It's always fun for me. So you got to make it fun.
Absolutely. You got to work those obscure words into conversation every now and then.
Yeah.
So
makes me feel really smart.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And it just puts your level of gravitas that much higher.
I saw the numbers like the Matrix coming down.
Yeah.
That's what it is to me. I don't know.
You should add that overlay to the video when you produce it, when she starts talking about that. So let's talk real quick, because that's one thing about this podcast is that we gear it towards consumers. So there might be some consumers out there that are listening that this is the first time that they've heard, well, probably the first time they've heard numerator in like 25 years.
Yes.
But maybe the first time that they've also heard us talk about debt to income. So define what a debt to income ratio is, please.
So basically your debt to income ratio is taking your gross annual income, dividing it by 12, because everything that a mortgage lender looks at is your gross monthly income. We have to look at your ability to repay the payment, and that's all centered around monthly income. The income has different forming on the type of income that you have. So salary is then hourly or bonus or commission. And that's why it's really important to talk to a lender. Doesn't necessarily mean you have to get pre-qualified right away, but having that initial conversation to say, okay, what does my income look like? What does that formula look like? Because that's going to be the driving force behind how much home you can buy. Now, if you have your monthly debt, I wish that they would call the fraction monthly payments, because when I say monthly debt, a lot of times people think balances of their account. It's not the balances, it's more the monthly payments. So we're analyzing what's coming in and what's going out. And there's a very easy formula for it. You take your monthly gross income. For everyone that's listening, let's bust out pens and paper and bring it back to like middle school math right now. I promise it's not that hard. But
plug your ears, roll. We're getting into fractions.
No, it's so easy. Take your gross monthly income, multiply it by 45%. That tells you the max monthly debt that you can have going out. And then start subtracting any car loan payments, student loan payments, credit card payments. And then once you subtract all that out, that end number is the max mortgage payment that you could have, max. So
all-in payment, not just, and this is a clear distinction that that a lot of folks miss, is that we're talking about not just principal and interest. We're talking principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, especially for first-time homebuyers.
Yes, and if you're looking online at your online calculators, most of them will not include taxes and insurance because your property taxes are largely dependent on the county that you buy in. So they don't like, a World Wide Web calculator. If you're buying in California versus Texas, it's going to be different. So most of the payments that you're getting online are just principal and interest. But I mean, it's not really that basic, but to a degree, it's that basic. Gross monthly for the household, total monthly payments. Once you subtract all that out, that's what you're left over. And a key thing is it's only the monthly payments that report to your credit report. So your cell phone bill does not report to the credit report. Your water bill, even your daycare bill does not report to the credit report. So the biggest variables is in the income calculation. So when clients ask me, well, how can I afford more home? It's easy. It only comes down to two things. You either increase your income or you decrease your debt. Most people don't have a whole lot of control over their income. So we have to start shedding off your debt, or we look at adding cosigners. But if you want to increase your purchasing power, it's always centered around those two things. Either it's your monthly income or it's your monthly debt.
Yeah, that was a big takeaway I got I did look for a house about 1.5 years ago, and I did get pre-approved and all that. But that was my big thing. The reason why I didn't go through with it was because I found all that out, just increasing like cash flow and those things I just never thought about. So, and because of that, that's why I have held off, because I want to get everything paid off first, because I just know too many people that are in a house. And as much as I know like a house can be like a blessing, like I also feel like I know too many people that are in a house that they probably couldn't afford. Yep. Like they make enough to get into that house and they can get approved, but they just have that much and that's it. And so that was one of my big fears. So that's why I held off. But that was something that you're talking about right now is what kind of led me to wait, because when I get in, I want to be able to be comfortable.
Yeah. Don't want to be house rich and cash poor.
Yeah.
Here's where I would challenge you, Raul. You ready?
Oh no.
I knew this was coming.
This is where I challenge you, because the people you're talking about probably were not talking to a lender that even disclosed what that person's debt to income ratio is. And so they got into a financial transaction, unfortunately, uneducated and at their max, because they weren't properly. So if you got pre-qualified and you were like, okay, my ratio is at a 38%, that's healthy, and you use a down payment assistance program, which will gift you or grant you the entire down payment for like a 3.375%. Insert all the disclaimers so I don't get compliance after me. But I'm just saying, hypothetically,
this is not an offer to lend.
This is not an offer to lend. We're just talking. Get your entire down payment as a grant and get into a home and start building wealth 45 times faster than throwing that money to your landlord. Just saying.
No, and I do. I really am pretty excited. I want to hurry up and get into it, but there's other factors too, I guess. I wasn't 100% that I wanted to stay in Austin. So that's like a really big thing that I'm kind of glad.
Yeah, that is a huge thing.
So there was definitely a few things, but I did learn all that just by going and applying and talking to people within
and working for the best mortgage company in the world.
Yes.
There you go.
Because I knew nothing coming in here, and Denise, you knew that because you were a big part of me getting hired.
There you go.
So yeah, I was like, are you sure you want to come to mortgage? Like, you're really good at what you do, and mortgage marketing is kind of boring. So I'm a little worried about you staying around.
And now look at us. We're doing a podcast.
We're all sexy now.
Yeah.
It's bringing sexy to the mortgage industry.
Yeah. Well, we do what we can. I mean, somewhat limited, but hey, we'll get there. But yeah, what would you say? Still thinking about debt to income ratio. What do you think is a good number, a good solid number, say for a first time home buyer? Where do you think ideally, understanding that every financial situation is unique, but where do you generally like people to land?
It really depends on if they're in the next, I always ask them what their next 5 to 7 year plans look like, because if they're going to start popping out kiddos, which is very common, then the question becomes daycare, because daycare is such a big expense to people that that has to be part of my equation. Because if they go into their max and your home is appreciating in value every year, so it's likely that your property taxes are, I'd probably advise them to stay around a 38 to a 40% ratio. But really I mean, it could be somebody that doesn't plan to have kids, but they plan to finance a wedding, or they plan to finance a yacht. I don't know, but I have to know what their future plans are, because to Raul's point, buying a home is a commitment. It's not really something you want to like buy and sell every year unless you're an actual real estate agent. You don't have to pay the realtor fees. It's not really something that you want to dabble in. You want to make sure that it's a wise commitment and that you plan to be there, or at least potentially plan to rent the home out, because that's been one of the best financial moves that I was not actually really consciously aware of that I was doing until myself now. But the first home I bought with 3.5% down. It was an FHA loan. I was totally stereotyped by the loan officer. He didn't ask me any questions. I just thought that was the best loan program because that's what they advised. And that first home, I put very little down, and then I moved out and turned it into a rental. And I bought my second primary home. I put 5% down and turn that one into a rental. And so for those of you who are listening, typically when you buy an investment property, if you buy a property that you initially intend to rent out, you need 20% down. That's a big chunk of change. I mean, that's tough to come by. But if you buy a home, you live in it, and then convert it into a rental, that's a different story. You can buy the home as your primary with as little as 0%, 3%, 5% down. And then you can convert that into a rental and buy your next property with the 5 or 3% down. And so it allows you to build an investment portfolio quicker in life. And again, that wasn't my strategy. I was scared to death actually to rent a house out, because I didn't have a husband, and I was like, well, if the garbage disposal breaks, I'm screwed. But figured it out. And so to anybody that's listening to this that hasn't bought their first home, when we're talking about financial strategy, that is, you can really accumulate wealth with real estate. And it doesn't have to be scary. But most people I talk to who are 50, 60, 70, one of the first things they always say is, I wish I would have kept my very first house, because when I bought it, it was this amount, and today it's worth this amount. And so it's just something to keep in mind when you're working with the lenders. You do want a lender for life that can help you build a portfolio potentially, because this world's changing so much. I mean, with VRBO and all kinds of stuff, it's changing.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And, you know, it's interesting. Some of the comments you were making are things that I've shared with clients as well. Recently, I'm thinking specifically about a young couple that I was introduced to a couple of weeks ago, unmarried, but about to be engaged to be married. And they're buying a house together. And both of them have solid income. They're not making $100,000 a year. I mean, combined between the two of them, it's probably around 85, 90,000. Young couple and zero debt. They've been very, very smart about it. After running the numbers, I saw that they both could qualify for a $400,000 purchase just based on the numbers. But if you think for 1 second that I was going to advise them, go out and buy a $400,000 house, you're crazy.
Yeah.
Because even though the numbers worked, even though the DTI was at 43 or just a hair under 43%, I was like, that would shock the absolute heck out of them to have to one, get a house that big, number two, deal with that payment. So I told them, it's like, look, you qualify for $400,000, but I strongly advise you against going to that level. I think 300 to 320 should be your sweet spot, because it's going to result in this kind of payment. They said that we've got 20% saved up for a down payment. And I said, why do you think that that's the best solution for you? Well, that's just kind of what we thought after reading articles on the internet. Yeah. It's like, well, did you know that you can do this, this, and this? And gave them some other alternatives. It's like, oh, that would work way better.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so taking the time and that's the kind of stuff that you need to find whoever you go to. We would obviously prefer that you come to Thrive, but
Right.
wherever you go to, you need to make sure that that loan officer, that mortgage originator is taking the time to educate you on all of your options and not just saying, oh, you want FHA? Great. Here you go.
Mm-hmm.
Got it. And call it good. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. And you can get lost down a rabbit hole of Google and, what they would recommend, but it's just, I mean, we all know I would steer clear of that. I would look at loan officers. I would check out their online reviews
Mhm.
and see if there's a overwhelming thing about that they care and they presented you options.
Mhm.
Because information for the masses is not even close to the same as information for your individual financial goals. So it's just that's just bottom line. Sometimes I love Gary Vee and Grant Cardone, and they have certain views on real estate and what you should do with real estate, and I love those guys. But some of their philosophies or strategies are for the 2% of Americans in the world. Not everybody's wired to be an entrepreneur, or instead of putting money down on a home, you can go start a business. Well, not everybody's going to do that. So putting the money in your home and it being your home is actually a wise thing to do, because that message is for such a small percentage of Americans. I don't disagree with it, but there's no disclaimer that says this doesn't fit the mold of 95% of Americans. And so
yeah, and that's why I like the marketing, like for instance, like what you do and some of the things that I try to coach people on here is like, there are people like Gary Vee that have really great advice, but I feel like there's other people like kind of like more like foot soldiers, people like on the ground that are working with people every day. And those, if we can turn like our loan officers into like influencers, I think that's the biggest. And I think that's probably why what makes you so successful at what you do is because you're an influencer, believe it or not. I mean, I think people, they see these general videos online about how to do these things, but people need something more detailed and like close to them. And I think that's where that you kind of align with that. So
yeah,
thank you.
I like that.
I think the other thing is it's so intimidating to talk to a mortgage person, because it's like you feel like they're talking Greek, and you feel it's the same thing when people go to a financial advisor, but it's like there's so much fear. There's fear. There's a lot of fear of rejection. Like, is my credit going to be good enough? And is my down payment going to be good enough? And I don't understand anything that they're saying. I don't even understand anything that they're disclosing. They just said numerator. I'm freaking out,
Yeah.
because it's real. They're like, oh, I'm going to have to do like math, and I suck at math. It's just, there is so much fear and anxiety with even having a conversation with a lender. And that's why a lot of my content is, it's how I am. It's how I speak. But it has to be delivered in a way where it's not intimidating and saying all these weird acronyms or, that's so intimidating.
Yeah. Like I was going through your website the other day.
Oh God.
And I noticed just all of your videos that you have up. And, for me, that's great because I'm not a millennial, but I feel like I kind of fit in with a lot of what they're tied to, which is I want to get as much information as possible, being anonymous and getting a lot of my questions answered before I go and make that phone call, because once I make that phone call, I know now I have to, talk to somebody and be obligated or have like some type of, you feel obligated, so I want to get a lot of that first and get that understanding first. So that way, when I do talk to people, I don't feel like so intimidated, like I know what we're talking about. So that was another thing that was really cool about some of the stuff you're working on is you have a lot, like a library of a lot of good content. So how's that working for you as far as like how successful? I mean, do people comment on those videos? Like whenever you talk to them, are people like coming in because of those videos, or how's that work?
I don't pay for any marketing. Like I don't pay for any Facebook ads or a lot of my videos I just put out there because if somebody stumbles upon it, great. But the ones that I get the most comments and feedback on is there's people nationwide that will watch my how do you remove your PMI, which let me tell you, gosh, even Raul watching these videos makes me cringe because I think my sister was holding the camera. I had just gotten my wisdom teeth out. There's a legit bruise on my cheek, and you can't even see it because the lighting is like so horrible. But I have the most views on them because they're informative, and I have people from all over the nation like, thank you so much for your video. I was able to get my PMI removed without having to refinance. Okay. Or back in the day when we had HUD statements, I had a demo of like how to read a HUD, and you're just, it's exactly like what you're talking about, Raul, is there's so much fear that a lot of people want to do their education up front, which is why we put that out there. It's not necessarily to attract more leads as much, but I do get a good amount of people contacting me. I'm not licensed all over the US, but so shout out to Chrissy.
Yeah.
Right.
She's licensed in like freaking Europe at this point.
I think she's taking the test for Guam tomorrow. So.
Yeah, I'm like, when do you even sleep? So, but the video thing, social media, if I can teach for the people who follow me, and I there's not really any, it's just all authentically done. So I don't even pay close attention to all the hashtagging, and I'm sure there's some marketer listening to this probably telling me I could use some help, but.
Yeah, no, but see, I think that's cool because I actually, well, I think that's huge for branding, which isn't like a direct, lead generation, but getting the word out there and showing people, instead of, like I was just talking about this earlier, like instead of telling people you're an expert, you just make these videos and you talk about what you know best, and then people know you, they become to know you as an expert. And then you're just like top of mind. So I really like that you don't put out videos expecting someone to call you, because that's something that I'm really big about too. Like, I just feel people need to give out as much information as possible, and then just to get name recognition out there. And then some of those will come back, but I feel like people give up too early because they think, oh, I put a video out and nobody called me. And I just feel like that's just not the way it works. And so that's really awesome.
Yeah. It definitely takes a lot of dedication, a lot of consistency to build a brand. Speaking of brands, let's talk about your Mortgage Nerd brand real quick. What do you feel is one of the biggest challenges that you had in establishing the brand? Was it, it seems like you kind of naturally fell into the concept of the Mortgage Nerd just because of what you've been talking about your background and how you kind of gravitate to those things and are passionate about education and passionate about finance and numbers and finding out smart ways of investing. So what was the most challenging thing for you about coming up with developing your branding?
In 2012, I left the big bank and I went to a mortgage bank, which is always a big step for mortgage loan officers, is when you leave that big brand, that database of clients, and kind of go out on your own. And at the time, I worked for a company by the name of Sente Mortgage. I say that because Sente was hard to spell. Mortgage is hard to spell for people. Denise is hard to spell, and so is Donoghue.
Strike 1, 2, 3, and 4.
My email address was denise.donoghue@sentemortgage.com, and they're like, how do you spell all of that? I'm like, well, this is
huge, right?
Huge, yeah.
That's so
huge. I immediately, when I would meet with clients, I would be like, just put my name in your phone, call me the nerd. And it just kind of became something that rolled off my tongue. But it was interesting because my CEO at the time, he hates when I tell this story, but my CEO at the time, I told him, I want to go by the Mortgage Nerd. Like I want that to be my thing. And social media wasn't at all what it is today.
Right.
And he actually told me not to do it. He didn't like the idea. He thought that it put me in a position here and the client here. And he actually advised me not to do it. And that's where I was working at the time. And so it was a struggle because in my heart, it's what I wanted. I have a pretty good business sense. I have a gut intuition, kind of always been that way. Started my first eBay business when I was 14. That's actually how I put my way through school.
Nice.
But that's another podcast. But and so I kind of went against his wishes or his judgment. And he's, some millionaire that has a very successful mortgage company. So it's like, how dare you go against someone? but I just went with my gut, and sure enough, and so he'll still send me text messages. He'll be somewhere and he'll see somebody with the nerd glasses, and he'll just take a picture and he'll send it to me because he knows he was wrong.
Yeah.
But I'm a firm believer that you follow your heart and you follow your gut, even if somebody's smarter, wiser, may tell you otherwise.
Right.
Now, if you suck at singing and you think you're going to be a good singer, you should probably listen. Okay. I can't guarantee. Yeah. I'm not going to try to go get a singing career. Trust me. But I just have this gut intuition, and it's been really cool to see now that it's become such a brand. I mean, I have clients all the time. I have realtors, and anything that has the nerd glasses, it's like they either buy it for me or they take a picture and they're like, oh my gosh, I thought of you. So it's really cool. But actually the start of it was hard because I went against the CEO of our company.
Yeah.
Right.
But that's pretty cool, because it's like, you know, I get that a lot with Thrive too. Like a lot of my friends and my family, like, oh my God, I saw Thrive. I'm like, yeah, I know. But no, it's really cool though, because it's like they probably saw Thrive, or in your case, like the glasses, a million times before. It never even occurred to them. But now that
there's an association with it.
And that's literally what they mean when they say, you know, top of mind. Like it's one of the first things you think about whenever you see those glasses. So that's really cool.
Have you ever gotten, because of your videos or because of like being featured on other podcasts or other webinars or anything, have you ever been recognized out in public, like at a restaurant, somebody come up to you and say, you're the mortgage nerd? Has that happened yet?
Jim, which is the here's my secret. This is a bad secret, but I don't actually wear glasses. It is a total no. But I don't. And so when I'm out and about, I'm not as recognizable because I'm not wearing the glasses. But I feel like every time it happens, I'm a sweaty mess at the gym, and I probably smell, and it's like it's the last place you want to be like, oh, hey, mortgage nerd. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so. But yeah, I mean, there's times funny stories. I also have an identical twin, and she was a teacher for a very long time, and so that's actually a more fun situation where I would go to the mall and people would be like, Miss Bird, because they thought it was the teacher. I'm like, you know, I'm with my husband and that's not her husband. And so they were like, Miss Bird's cheating on her husband. And I'm like, no, I'm not Miss Bird. So that's actually, I get that more than anything. But when I go to events and stuff, I'll get people say, oh, you're the mortgage nerd. And I'm like, yes, which I actually don't like. I'm actually an introvert. I hate going. I hate.
What's that?
I am as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can be behind a camera all day long. I love being behind a camera, but you put me out, like if I have to actually go somewhere with people, I'm the person like secretly acting like I'm cool and on the phone, like
off to the side.
Hey, let me get this call because I'm so cool that someone's calling.
One of my realtors.
Yeah. Oh, gotta go.
Gotta go. Speaking of realtors, I know that you're. We'll ask just a couple more questions, and then kind of come to a close. But I want to talk about your relationships with your referral partners and with your business partners, because I know that you are adamant about maintaining top level relationships with a number of different players in the industry, not just realtors, but from all facets. I know that you also have good relationships with financial planners, and there's a lot of back and forth there. So what are some of the keys that are must-haves for you with any business relationship or business partnership that you establish?
I mean, I would prefer to like them. Like if we can actually do this together and like actually, but you know, it's tough. I operate at such a unique level that I try to find people that their brain goes as much as mine. And one of the things I love doing with real estate agents and even financial advisors is I have a passion for helping people grow their business. That's what I think one of the reasons why I joined Thrive with helping with the marketing side is like I loved pouring into loan officers to help them grow their business, because I could just see, okay, if you just did this one little thing or implemented a CRM, or you know, if you just made that one little tweak, started doing some videos or posting on social, it can make such an impact in their life, which means their family, which means, so many other things. And so with my realtor partners, it's all strategy. It's let's dissect your business plan. What are you doing? What are your daily habits? What worked last year? What didn't work last year? I've written CRMs for realtors because they don't like any CRM that's out there. And so I just said, I'm tired of having this conversation. I'll just write my own for them. But I try to position myself as a business partner instead of just a person that works for them, so to speak. And so I do that with all my partners, CPAs and financial advisors. I can't pretend to be a financial advisor expert in today's day. I did it years ago, but I don't know I don't even have the capacity to try to know. So I lean on them for that. If I have clients that ask questions, I stay in my lane, but it's important to me to work with people who are like myself, that run this business like a business. It's not a hobby, it's a passion. And the end goal is helping a lot of people. It's not the money. I care about people over a paycheck. It's like, that is what keeps me going. That's at 4 a.m. every morning right now, is because I see how low these interest rates are. And it's like, I literally feel to help as many clients as I can save money. Has nothing to do with my paycheck. I mean, I would love to sleep and lose a deal or two. I don't care. But it's just being able to help as many people as I can. So for all my business partners, it's a circle of true business professionals that are wanting to build a business. It's just each of us have our own vehicle. I'm in mortgage. They might be in financial advising, but we all share similar business problems and business successes, and we can learn from each other.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I notice you posting a lot of on social media are the times when you have those masterminds or those brainstorming sessions with your business partners in the room, and you'll have 10 realtors sitting around a table, but not all of them from the same brokerage. So they're competitors just like that. But in that room, learning and sharing and collaborating with you and with each other, they basically become a team that is investing in each other and pouring best practices into each other. And that part is really, really cool. And that's one of the things that I think is that a lot of people don't get to see about our industry. They see the headlines, they see so-and-so is going to jail, or this and that company lost their FHA sponsorship, or whatever. They see the headlines of all the bad stuff, but what they don't see, if they're not paying attention, is they don't see the professionals who are truly engaged and truly care about the consumer experience and elevating the consumer experience the same way that you and so many other loan officers at Thrive Mortgage do, and how they invest in their relationships as well. So I definitely applaud you for that, for having that kind of approach and that kind of mentality. It's really one of the things that separates you from so much of the competition that is just focused on the transaction rather than the relationship. And so that I think is really critical.
I actually think that Thrive Mortgage, I think that's something that is unique about the culture at Thrive, is that majority of the loan officers here are all willing to share. I mean, people message me, I message them, hey, what are you using for this? Hey, can you send me? And I'll just tell you, if you're in any kind of sales business, a scarcity mindset is quicksand. It's poison.
It's the end of your career.
Yeah, but at Thrive Mortgage, we all, we have our private Facebook group, and everybody's willing to share. Everyone's sending messages. Hey, what are you doing that's working? I just had a guy call me this morning that I think is joining from the Carolinas and was like, I want to talk to Denise, pick her brain. I mean, pick my brain. This is the best company I've ever worked for. And so I just love that we have that culture. It's a culture of sharing, because there's not a shortage of real estate. There's no way I could do all the loans in DFW. I wouldn't want to. I'd be on Channel 5 News. I'd be like Britney Spears with a bald head and a cane. There's no shortage of real estate. So it's like, help, it's just don't have a scarcity mindset.
That's right. Yeah, real estate is not a zero-sum game. I mean, okay, if you want to get technical, then eventually it does become one. But there's so much business out there for so many who are willing to put in the work.
Yeah.
You're right. Having a scarcity mindset is not. You need to have an abundance mindset.
Yeah,
So,
that's cool.
absolutely.
And yeah, last thing I'll say is just, I think that's also why people like one of the big things in marketing that I like is like people just giving away free information. And I think a lot of people are scared that like, well, if I give you free information, help you out, you're gonna take my clients, and it's like that's not gonna happen,
Right.
And the majority of the people that you give, the majority of the free information out there isn't even being used. So if that's a big concern, the more you share, I mean, it makes you look more like an expert, and like most people won't even take it from you because they're not even doing social media like they should be.
Yeah.
So I think it also kind of ties back to that as well. Like, I wish more people would share more because it's very helpful, and there's definitely a lot to go around,
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So final question for you, Denise. If you could give 2012 Denise one piece of advice, since that wasn't going back through your history, that wasn't your first foray into mortgages, but it was kind of the starting point of who you are today. So if you could go back to 2012 and give that Denise one piece of advice that would have made your journey easier, what would that be?
Maintain a database and leverage technology.
Okay.
I remember before I really adopted into a CRM, I had an Excel spreadsheet, and each tab was a client's name, and I had an itinerary for each client. And every Friday I would take a snippet of the itinerary, like, okay, you've been to processing, underwriting, and I would literally go and I would email it to every person. And that mortgage tab became like 4 tabs to 10 tabs to 12 tabs to 20 tabs. And I was like, okay, I'm spending half my Friday on snippeting Excel spreadsheets because I'm also cheap. So I'm like, well, I don't need a CRM. I can just use Excel.
Right.
But every business thrives off of maintaining a client database. Whether you get out of mortgages and you start mowing yards, these are people that know, love, and trust you. And so you've got to maintain a database. And I do think that a CRM is super important. No CRM is perfect. They all have glitches. It's just like any other technology. But the sooner that you can get it implemented and structure it so that it fits you, because everyone thinks you can just plug and play into any CRM, and it's like that doesn't exist.
Right.
So, but that would be had I done that sooner, I guess I would say that, or pull the trigger on a loan officer assistant faster.
Start building your team quicker.
Yeah, because I think I worked myself to the ground. But I will tell you, this is a little added tip. So anybody that's new getting into the mortgage business, the thing that I did my first year was I called it my P90X. It had nothing to do with working out. But every weekend for 52 weeks, I did open house crashing. And what I would do is I would go get in front of, my goal was every week was to add 5 realtors to my database that I could ultimately market to. In today's day and age, I would do a video, I would do a specific loan program, but I would get in front of 5 realtors, which is totally different than cold calling or sending a Facebook Messenger, because you're getting to be in front of them. And so you'll to A&M, oh, cool. Or you wouldn't like, and you're not going to put them in there. But if you added 5 people every single week to your database, and to them every single month at minimum of a new loan program or a way that you saved a client money, business, because they remember you. And you don't have to invest money in that. You can bring a trinket. You don't have to bring it. I get plenty of trinkets. But the name of the game is it's a contact sport. So you got to get in front of people, and realtors have buyers. And so beef up that realtor roster if you're trying to get loans.
Excellent advice. Excellent, especially about the CRM part.
Yes.
So what are ways that people can either get in touch with you or follow you on social? What are the biggest platforms where you're most active?
Instagram, Facebook. I mean, you can just go to The Mortgage Nerd. My handle is @The Mortgage Nerd. If you Google The Mortgage Nerd, all my stuff's there. But I'm very active on Instagram, Facebook. No, I am not on TikTok. Maybe one day I will.
Yes.
Haven't gotten to that point
never.
yet. Yeah. And my YouTube channel. My YouTube channel is mortgagenerd.tv. There's lots of videos, credit FAQs, I have a lot of interviews with credit experts, financial advisors, landlords. But if there's any questions that you guys have or want me to answer or address, send me an Instagram message and I'll make a video about it, because I want to be able to deliver to what people have questions on. So holla at your nerd.
Excellent. And for those loan officers who are listening in, what she just said, the last 15 seconds of what she just said is content gold right there.
Yeah.
Like, start soliciting for people submitting questions or messaging you questions. And then don't just respond in a private message, because if one consumer has that question, somebody else is going to have that question. So make a video out of it, answer the question, post it as a response, tag that person who asked the question. And there you go. And suddenly you might expose yourself to a brand new audience.
Answering the same question to 100, 200 different people at the same time.
Easily. All right. Leverage the power of social media. There you go. Well done, Denise. All right. Well, thank you so much, Denise, for being on with us today. Really appreciate you taking the time, especially coming in on month end. Oh my goodness. We're recording this like four business days before the actual end of the month of June, and just setting records left and right. And you take a
right now. Every day is the same.
Every day. Like, I shot a video yesterday where I had to stop and pause while the video was going and remind myself of what day it was. And think, right. No, it's Wednesday.
Sorry. The last thing I'll say, that's so cool though, because, a lot of people are like, I don't have time to make videos. And like, nobody has time to do that, especially like as an older person, it's so hard to older.
Hey,
I didn't say old.
What did you say?
Well, I mean, everyone thinks it's just for like young kids, and it's like, no, I mean, it's a definitely effort for everybody. I mean, you got to make time for it. Nobody just has time,
Yeah. So I always feel it can either be a tool or a toy, because you can use them both. My niece uses it as a toy. I leverage it as a tool. So it's all how you use it. You know what I mean? So
but a lot of times people get on and they get distracted. Mm-hmm. So like when I go on, every time I pick up my phone, I'm like, oh man, notifications. And then I get lost in all my notifications. So you just gotta, figure out how to not get lost on your phone and actually use it for, something that'll bring it back to you,
Yeah. A little bit of discipline, a little practice, and you'll figure it out.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Denise, enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks again for your time.
Yeah, thank
and
you.
Look forward to the next time that we get to see you and hang out with you.
Yeah.
Okay. Bye, guys.
Right.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Thanks for listening in. Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. The title sponsor for Thrivenomics is Thrive Mortgage. Licensed in multiple states across the U.S., Thrive Mortgage employs the best professionals, equipped with leading technology and the most efficient process to deliver a legendary lending experience. For more information about how we can serve you, or to find a local Thrive Mortgage professional in your area, please visit us at thrivemortgage.com. You can also contact us directly via email at thrivenomics@thrivemortgage.com. Thrive Mortgage is an equal housing lender, NMLS ID 268552.